Hi Morten, I'm going to give you some feedback here on your first written exercise. As you might have seen, I have already uploaded a revised version of your text to iSchool. You have to find it as an additional upload under your own text. So you'll find your own text in its original form and then my revised version underneath that. What I've done with the text is basically I've corrected errors or given you comments that I would like you to consider that could improve the text. So for the video here, I'm going to sum it all up and also add onto that some more general observations about how you've written the text. So my corrections in the revised text are at a somewhat local level, and this is going to be more at the global general level. First of all, I'd like you to try and read the introduction or read the beginning of the text, keeping in mind that you are writing an article for the British Army Review. That is to say that you have a readership, plural, of people who don't know Ludwig or who are not at present when they read familiar with Ludwig. That means something for how you write the text. Also, you are trying to persuade your reader that he is wrong, or at least is no longer relevant or has gotten things wrong in some way. So your purpose is one of persuasion. And that also means something in terms of how you structure your text. So you strategize, I suppose you could say, when you think about the text and how you want to write it according to your readership and the purpose of the text. So, if you read the beginning, I'd like you to consider how you can frame the topic and the purpose that you have with the text for the reader to a greater degree. This is to hook the reader, but also to get them started in a way where they understand the basics before they get into your argument. It's important that they can understand what Ludwig is saying before they can understand why you disagree, basically. Outside of that, I think you have a plan, a concept for this text that is simple and sort of straightforward, and I mean that in a good way. It works, what you're trying to say. You have a limited focus and you keep to that focus, I think. Also, most of your paragraphs communicate effectively, but you have to be better at creating transitions between the paragraphs so that you don't lose your reader. The reader has to know what is happening at all times and why am I reading this? Why is this relevant for what I've been promised in the introduction, this critical take on Ludwig's thesis. So, aside from you understand the genre and what that requires of you as a writer, you have a really good, you have a good plan, I think, and you're able to execute it in an okay way. And the reason why I'm hedging it and saying in an okay way has to do with your language at the more local level. I think when you look at my corrections, you'll see there are quite a few. Also quite a few places where you have to consider your paragraphs as well. Whether they are too long, whether they need to be phrased in a more precise and straightforward manner. So what I'm left with when I look at the language is something that at times is, the word I use for it is fuzzy, meaning that I kind of get what you're saying, but it's not phrased in a way that I'm completely certain. and that coming on, and on top of that, there are some errors to do with what we call lexis, which is another way of saying your choice of words. So that all of that contributes to the flow being disrupted somewhat. So I see what you're doing. I kind of get, and I see where you're going with this. But if I was a reader who was not on your side already, I would perhaps be a little sort of, I'm not sure I actually want to bother with this because it's not communicating clearly. So this is something that you have to work on. In terms of lexis, choosing the right words, it can be a question of simply looking up the word. If you're not sure of it, look it up. If you are in fact sure of it and don't think you need to look it up, but it's wrong anyway, then that's a question of spot checking every now and again when you choose a word, whether or not it's actually what you need to use. Like on modern, for instance, well, it's actually not a word in English, so look that up and figure out, so what's the English equivalent of that? It doesn't translate directly into English, things like that. Yeah, another way of gaining some another way of doing it is by imitating what other people write. I sometimes suggest that people, in order to become better writers, read more. Because what we can do often is we can imitate how other people write. So a suggestion could be that you set aside 15-20 minutes every week to read about something that is perhaps not within your usual area of interest, and that's in order for you to not get lost in the content, but to focus your attention on the language. Try and be aware of how things are written, different ways of phrasing things, linkages between words that appear together at all times, things like that we can start to imitate. And the thing that with what we usually consume online, for instance, because we consume a lot of content that's in English online, is that it's tailored to meet the way that what we already know how to do, meet the level that we're at usually. And it's important sometimes to see something that's different, something that makes us aware of how it's written, in other words. So that could be a suggestion for you in how to kind of improve your own writings to imitate. Okay, so just to sum up what I'm saying here. When you read your text in the editing phase, try and adopt a reader perspective to make sure that you frame the text properly in your introduction, that you have good coherence between your paragraphs, that all of the paragraphs are saying what you want them to say, that your message is clear, and then spend some time looking things up in the dictionary and be critical and be curious about whether the way that you're phrasing things is right or not. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. If you want a grade, come and see me in class. I don't usually give out grades as a default. I'm more interested in how you progress next time than I am in your grade. But if I know that a lot of people find grades very useful and would like to figure out kind of where they're at and things like that. So if you want that, please come and see me. I'll give you the grade, no problem. But you do have to actively come and see me. Okay? That is it for me for the time being. I will see you in class. Bye.